Would help if the radio guy would turn the microphones up. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott. I think you all know this guy, Clay Hendrix, the head coach of your Furman Paladin football team here. It is signing day week, which doesn't mean quite what it used to in the world of college football, but we're also a couple of weeks out of spring practice starting, so we thought we would do a little football update. How are you?
I'm well. It's been a good, I guess, January. We've been busy with our off-season program, so it's been good getting close to starting spring practice.
Did you give yourself much of a break after the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we weren't playing as long, so we had more time. I think what was different, you almost felt like you had less of a break because of the way our calendar and all the happenings now.
Right.
It almost felt like we had a kid here every day up until the dead period started there right before Christmas. And, we had a dead period that actually starts today. This is a newer one they've installed. So basically the month of February, nobody can visit us. So which will be a good little bit of a break as we continue to prep. It lasts until maybe that first Monday in March, which I think is actually our spring break. So we will be hopefully about halfway through spring practice, before break, and then we'll do the other half after break.
I asked the question partially because knowing how competitive you are and not having very many seasons like we just came off of here, I would imagine the itch to get right back to work was pretty strong once the 2024 season came to an end.
Well, I think it's always nice to turn the page. I mean, I think even sometimes when you've had good seasons, it's kind of nice to start I enjoy the development part, and if you hear Coach Saban, what he said, the development part has really been changed or hindered somewhat to all the happenings and college athletics, and particularly college football. But no, obviously, certainly really, really disappointed in our season. And, the outcome of our season, I do think, looking back at it, I think there were some interesting things that we dealt with. And, but I think our players, and I told them this even throughout the season, they were, I think, continuing to do the right things to give us a chance to continue to develop. I think it's weathering the happenings, and I may be wrong, Dan. I think we weathered the transfer portal about as well as anybody did. It's interesting to look at people's roster. We've rolled to the 25 roster. A lot of people haven't even put up their 25 roster. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy times. But so we did that. We were able to add some guys that I think helped us upgrade and make us better. And now, Andre, we wanted just a committed time of speed development, bigger, faster, stronger, before we head into spring practice. And so that's what the focus has been. And then we'll sign a couple of guys this week on top of the 10 we signed in December. And then we'll add some other guys to our roster that we've been recruiting as well, which, we've got good numbers heading into spring.
I want to spend a whole lot of time on last year, but I am interested on two aspects of 2024 because, 12, 13 guys out for the season, and you were forced to play so many young players who weren't ready to play. They were so far down on the depth chart when the year started, and they were pressed into action. So I guess the two questions first would be lessons learned, and then the second one would be the positives that came out of that despite the 3-8 record.
Wow, we could be here for a while. I think ultimately is this. We had 40-some-odd seniors the year before. You knew you were going to be a lot younger in a lot of areas. I knew we were thin in some areas. Coming into August, I think we had 6 ACLs before we ever played a game, even count some of the off-season stuff. I think, it was really kind of tell the two sides of the ball. Defensively, we just really got wiped out injury-wise. Many more injuries over there. We had guys, even as middle of the season, we thought we were redshirting. They ended up starting about the last half of the season. I think on the offensive side, I think probably making the adjustment from Tyler Huff. Because what did we do well? I don't know. We didn't do a lot of things real well over there. Really, really young at quarterback, largely with Trey in there most of the time. Poor, didn't run football very well. Well, I think it's easy for people to, everybody loves to say, we didn't block anybody up front. Well, we can certainly play better than we did, but, I've been doing this 40 years now, and they got 11 on defense, and there's 5 offensive linemen, and so, we were really poor in the play action game, so then, whether people load boxes, we didn't take advantage of it. They kind of helped one or the other. We did have some injuries, we weren't very productive at the running back, and we need running backs that can be productive when you don't block everybody, and that certainly helps when you do block better. So I think we kind of learned from that. I think we've made the adjustment a little bit. We don't have Tyler Huff playing quarterback, but we have some guys who are very capable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we just going to have to continue to adjust. We're making a bunch of adjustments defensively. I think. I think it gave us a chance to kind of hit the reset button. I think we're even looking back defensively. You look around college football and even our league. I think we've kind of always been built front to back. We've kind of reversed it. We're kind of looking more back to front. But we did play a bunch of young guys. We still were able to redshirt a bunch of guys. And, I think, really impressed upon them the weight gain. I mean, a guy like Ty Kosserud, here's a guy that we thought about week 5, it's the day that X got hurt. We were still thinking we could redshirt him. Well, he started the year. He started the last about half of the year at, I don't know, he's probably 260, 65 pounds. I think he was 292 this week when we weighed him. So we've made some great gains there. I mean, largely across our team. So we're making some good progress there. And look, I think we just kind of had a chance to look at everything, and that's what we've done.
And I will point out, I think I mentioned this to you shortly after the season ended, and may have mentioned it at the end of the last broadcast. I can't remember. We don't have too many seasons like this around here, but the last 2 times that Furman has finished 3-8, the next year, not only did the Paladins make the playoffs, but they won a playoff game. And one of those has been in your tenure. So we'll kind of hold on to that and not trying to put any extra pressure on you or anything, but just saying that the resiliency of the program has been evident.
Well, I think I look at a lot of our issues that I think, at least, I think a lot of them are fixable. Mm-hmm. I really like where we're at program-wise. I had a year very similar to this. I think we went, in 10 years at the academy, I think we went to 9 bowl games. 2013, you kind of remember the bad ones.
Yeah.
I think we were 2-10. And the next year, I think we won 10 and won a bowl game. And, it was largely quarterback play and defensively, And so I think each year's a little different. Last year's a little different. It wasn't quite like that. But, it's just stay the course, make adjustments. You got to always be learning. You got to forever be changing. And I think we're doing that. One thing I had a chance to do that I haven't been able to do the last few years because we played so long was having a chance to do some exit stuff with our players in December,
mm-hmm.
And asking their opinion about stuff. And I'm kind of one of those guys, you ask them, and it's kind of like your own kids, and you want to hear what they have to say. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. But I think they had some really good things that we could add and change a little bit. So we've taken that to heart. I shared it with the staff. We hit the ground running recruiting. We had some spots to fill. We had a few spots open even before the fall mm-hmm. that we kind of anticipated having in January. And then I think, there's this thought that transfer portal, you just take a scoop and you go scoop out a handful of guys and here they come. It doesn't work like that, and probably if there's 10 names in there, we can recruit 8 of them. 1 or 2 of them. Mm-hmm. just because academically, transferable credit, you name it. We have gotten a couple of grad options that have helped us. And then, the world of, play for pay. There's just all kinds. It's really kind of crazy out there. It's really going to be continuing interesting to see what happens, going forward. But I'm really pleased with the guys we got here. Pleased how they fit. I think so much of it here is getting kids that fit, that buy into kind of who we are, and so I think we're in a good spot.
I have to laugh when you talk about the exit interviews and you talk about your own kids, because I think as parents we've all had those conversations with our own kids, and those are dangerous conversations to have because you're not sure what you're going to hear. So if you're going to ask those questions, you better be prepared for anything. Did you hear, and I'm not asking you to share any secrets or anything, but did you hear anything that made you go, maybe that's something we need to look at?
Yeah, there were a few of those. And if I just sat here, I had about 2 pages of them when I did it. And, what I told our staff, I said, I think the thing that I enjoyed most about it was I didn't, occasionally you could do that, like that guy's whining.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt that way. I think it was thoughtful stuff they put through. And, sometimes they need to understand why you do this. And they're like, okay, I understand that. No, I thought it was all good stuff. Some of it was X and O stuff. Some of it was just how you program. It was, how we do stuff on Fridays during the season. A little bit how we practice. Weight. I mean, just really everything. So I know it was good stuff.
But part of what you do, your staff does, what every football staff does every year, every offseason, and sometimes even during the season, there's always self-scouting that goes on, self-evaluation, right?
Yeah, I mean, that goes on throughout the season. But, yeah, absolutely. And you try to learn from people who's doing things well. Maybe who's like you.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at certain teams and like, yeah, I know they do that. We're so different from that place. Again, we're unique in our own set. One of our biggest challenges in the spring is just literally finding a time to practice because of our class schedules. We have to share facilities. We don't have lights on the grass. It's just lots of things kind of come into play. And, it's been like that about every year since I've been here. So we figure it out, and we'll figure it out this year. We're still kind of figuring out. We're going to have to go in the mornings during the week. And yet you're still trying to lift. The challenge comes when you got to make an adjustment on the fly. Well, it affects a lot of people. A lot of people use the weight room, so you just can't flip stuff. Mm-hmm. So, but being flexible. I feel like we again filled some spots. We had some needs. Those injuries. I don't know. It was close to about 20 surgeries, and then we had 4 or 5 more surgeries after the season. Guys that were playing. I mean, think about Ryan Earl. I think Ryan was our fourth leading tackler as a freshman. He had to have a labrum and a thumb fixed on the same arm. But he's playing linebacker all year with it. Mm-hmm. 2 offensive linemen. Ben Ferguson and really JJ played all year with Jones fractures in their feet. And Ben's finally gave out at Mercer. Caleb Williams, I don't know. Caleb Williams might have been 75% all year. And he was the only starter we had left at the start of the year. In fact, he's getting ready to have his second surgery since the season. And I think all those guys will be back, but we won't. We'll maybe have half of them back for spring practice. There'll probably be a good 10 of them that won't be able to participate in the spring. So, it gives some young guys a little better opportunity. But no, I don't know. I think sometimes it's kind of fun making some changes and making some adjustments. I think as coaches, you need to keep learning as well.
There's a name that I wanted to ask you about it, and you actually brought him up to me during the second half of the season, and the reason it popped to mind is before you got up here on the campus station, one of the old games from 2 years ago was playing, and he got a carry. But a guy who obviously didn't play all of last year, and I don't want to say he's been forgotten, but had the devastating knee injury at running back Jaquan Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, his name's come up quite a bit. He's doing great. He really is. Maybe even better than I thought he would be. Now, it's been 16 months.
I mean, there was a question whether he would ever play again, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I still don't think that's totally been decided, but I feel really good. He's doing a lot of stuff right now in our conditioning program. Now, he won't practice this spring. He can go out there and do some drills. Really, really pleased with where he is. He's 216 pounds right now, and we could really use him. And we really thought he would have been our guy last year. Now we knew he wasn't going to play last year.
Right.
I knew. And here's this. You're talking about a great kid. He's a pre-med. Man, just what an awesome young man. He was on a CLP panel. I actually went to it, attended it back. Now I don't know if it was December or January, but just boy, he just makes you better just having that kid on your team.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel really good. He's still got a long time now between when he's got to play, so hopefully that will continue. I think he had 3 surgeries, 3 different ones. A.K. Burrell's another guy like that who's had, he got hurt in August. His was either a 2 or maybe a 3 surgery. I mean, it was just, that AK got hurt. 2 of our safeties ran into each other on a deep ball, and that's how he got hurt. So it was just kind of one of those years. But Jaquan, we're hopeful. But
maybe if you had to put a percentage on him playing this year,
you know what? From what I've seen, I think he can play. We'll just have to see.
Just how much and how well remains.
And
to be
he
seen.
doesn't. He's not a guard.
Yeah.
He's a running back.
Right.
So that's a little different. I think it's even. It's like getting a guy with an ankle in a game, or maybe even a light knee sprain in a game. Certain positions, it's a little easier to kind of play with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, he plays a tough position. I don't know. Very, very hopeful. I'm really hopeful every one of those guys will be back. There'll be a couple now that'll go up until August, before we truly can get them back.
But you expect all of the guys who have eligibility back who were injured and out last year, you expect them all to be back?
Yeah, we do. We do.
And then all of a sudden, if that happens, you have a lot of depth that you didn't have going into last year anyway because of your youth, but because you had to play those young guys, now you've got a considerable amount of depth that you probably wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, and I know it's not a perfect world.
Well, I think the biggest area of concern last year, was the secondary. Mm-hmm. We lost all those guys. Well, we lose basically all 3 safeties if you count AK and Justin Hartwell, and like I said, Caleb played all year. But so you really got, like I said, got hit hard over there. And, I thought defensive exception, we got to be better against the run, and we gave up too many big plays. And, those are things that you hear. You're looking at our whole team. We got to be, red zone touchdowns allowed and both scored. Running, stopping the run. Things you talk about every year. And, a lot of those other factors, they're part of it. To think they aren't part of the problem, but, there's a lot of things we got to do better. And I'm just hoping that I'm very hopeful that just the natural maturity that comes with just playing, having played a year. I look at a lot of these freshmen that played last year as true freshmen, and some of them weren't ready to go. But just now watching them in the weight room doing stuff we're doing on the field, they're in a totally different place. Mm-hmm. I look at Trey Head. And Trey's always been great about he kind of lives over there in the office, is always asking questions. He lost about 10, 11, 12 pounds, since the season. Looks great. Still a big kid. Josh Burrell, there's a guy too. You feel like we took him to give us an old guy. I think he played a game in 4 plays, the whole year, but he's completely healthy. Add another guy there. So, again, I kind of like where our roster is. There's still some development's got to take place.
And obviously we're visiting with Clay Hendrix on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Of the guys that you brought in, the transfers, the grad signings, what excites you about that class, those 10?
I think they've all been good fits. You know, all of a sudden you think about it, because when I do a lot of football stuff, yeah, you can go out there and watch them run around a little bit, but you can't, you know, we're the sport that can't, you know, we get 15 practices, so you hadn't seen them truly practice. But you watch them in the weight room, you know, kind of, they've just been good fits. They're good workers. You can already see that. They're all bright. I think that's where it starts. I mean, you look at, you know, a couple offensive linemen, just older guys, you know, had the ability to fill in there. So not disappointing anybody. And again, we haven't practiced yet. Maybe ask me after the first couple of practices, but I don't know. I think you usually can kind of get a feeling on a guy, just kind of guy he is, kind of fit he is. I think he's been good fits at Furman. They're doing good in school. You know, and I'll say this, Danny, you think about the year that we had, you know, one of the things I'm concerned about sometimes is how it affects you in other ways. You know, academically, we had a great term academically. You know, just really proud of our guys for that, because things don't go your way. Sometimes that can carry over and affect you. That's been, you know, we've had, I think, the highest GPA we've ever had anytime since I've ever been at Furman, since we've been tracking it, just cumulative of the things they're doing. And, yeah, we got some guys who can do some things better as we can even on the field. But, again, I think they're doing all the right things. They're going to give you a chance to go be better and be back where you want to be. And, you know, we've done you know, we turn the page, and everything we're doing now is to win a conference championship. Right. And I think we're in as good a position as anybody. I don't know, again, I know something about some guys' rosters because I've talked to them. I think we're in a good spot if we continue to get a little better each day.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, and we've talked about this previously, but it seems to be getting crazier. There's no sign of it slowing down at all. How does Furman, how are you navigating this crazy college football world that we're living in right now? I mean, you talked about it, the transfer portal. They call it NIL, but it's basically free agency and pay for play. I mean, if you call it what it is, and Furman is just not in that world. How do you navigate that? And have you learned anything the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, yeah, I mean, you learn to you just control what you can control. I think, you know, the sad part for me is that you look at college football, particularly at the highest level, it's basically just become the NFL without a salary cap. And so, my opinion is if something doesn't change, it's going to be I don't know, 6 or 7 places that can pay the most. And I know you're hearing all this opting in and roster limits and all these different things. And I think most of the vote to finalize some stuff is supposed to be in April. But there seems to be a wrench thrown in there about every couple of weeks that somebody didn't think about. At the FCS level, again, it's, you know, and then it's funny you hear these people, even then they talk about, they don't even like you using the term manage your roster. Well, what do you call it? You know, and filling spots. And then, you know, I take a lot of pride in our school and who we admit. I can say this, I've never cheapened anybody's Furman degree with the kids we brought in here. You know, we brought in kids here, and we're you know, we've won at a high level. We're graduating kids. Our kids are doing all the right things. Didn't have the year we wanted to have. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. You know, the portal's simply a mechanism. The problem has become just the unlimited number of transfer, you know, options. You know, if we got back to some, you know, maybe a one-time transfer exception, then after that you got to sit out. You know, that was the whole thing when they had to sit out. That changed a lot of stuff. And then this pay and I don't know. It's I sat at the FCS head coaches meeting a couple weeks ago in Charlotte, and we had two attorneys from the NCAA were in the meeting with us, and the junior college thing came up, and
Right.
the attorney for the NCAA just said when somebody asked about it, he said, well, that was a one case deal. It was the Vanderbilt quarterback, and said and it was, I think basically said it was one judge made one decision. So I don't know what's going to happen, with all of that. But this, and this is it. Eventually going to be 5 to play 5. I don't know. Probably eventually. They were talking about 2 transfer windows. And in the meeting I was in, the guy said he said the SEC they are sold on having 2 windows. Everybody else just wanted one window. This was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 8 the next morning, because I talked to a coach, the FBS head coaches meeting, the first thing they do is vote on 1 versus 2, and it was unanimous vote for 1. And I knew there were 13 SEC coaches in there. So, we were told something 12 hours before. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if anybody knows. But they do have to get a handle on that. And, at one time they were talking about having a month-long portal. It's proven fact they all go within 2 days.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The FBS coaches approved the 10-day window, which they think they have enough votes, I guess, on the oversight committee to get that passed. But at every turn, something will pop. Well, how are you going to handle this, and how are you going to handle this? So I don't know. I've said all along. In fact, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's a longtime supporter of FBS programs, and just there are a lot of people kind of fed up with some of that. Does that help people like us, where you feel like you're kind of the last true level of college football? Because somebody had a way of putting it. The NFL is almost trying to become the NBA, and college football is becoming the NFL.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I'm going to throw this out there, and you may or may not want to comment on it as we come down the stretch here. But when Angela and I were on our anniversary weekend trip away from here back in September, we were at breakfast and found ourselves sitting beside a Power 5 college baseball assistant coach. We were at this table, he was at this table, and he was with the assistant coach and their director of ops and a player and the player's dad, and they were on a recruiting trip. And we weren't trying to listen, but we heard the entire conversation, and they were talking about everything from, scholarship money distribution to NIL and how they were going to handle all of that and everything. And so when they're done, the coach stays behind, and the director of ops and the player and the player's dad, they get up and they go on back to campus or whatever. And I just leaned over to the guy and said, look, I wasn't trying to listen. I said, but I broadcasted Division I college baseball in one form or another for 20 years. And I said, boy, your landscape has changed, hasn't it? And he told me that the thing that bothered him the most, he said he doesn't mind players getting money because he left school with 2 student loans that he had to pay off. He said, but the thing that bothers him is there's no accountability for the players, that the players can commit, they can get the NIL check from a school, and then the next year they can take off and they can do something else. There's no commitment for them. Now, I didn't really feel sorry for him because he was a Power 5 school, and he was complaining about another Power 5 school in the same conference came in and poached their best pitcher and their best hitter, their third baseman. But I think the point he was making, at least in my estimation, was valid, that right now all of the power has swung, at least at that level, to the players.
Yeah, and again, I know what I hear. I think one of the things they've got to get control over, in my opinion, is this NIL agent stuff. A lot of shady stuff going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Kids get in contact. If you'll do this, they'll pay you this. That's got to get taken care of. This whole opting in. And I don't know. I think that SoCon I think Jason maybe at some meetings this week. My understanding was that we were not making a decision as a league. It was going to be a school by school. And really the biggest question they asked me was, did I want to go to a roster cap? Well, I don't, because I don't want to. We've worked really hard to fill our roster and build a roster. We've had good numbers. I don't want to get into head count. That whole 105 number, it came up because these people were paying a bunch of kids NIL money, almost as walk-ons. And so now they're talking about they can go to 105 now. You can put them all on scholarship if you can afford to do that, or you can do with them whatever you want. But that obviously takes some opportunities away from some kids. So I didn't want to do that particularly. I don't really know what we'll end up doing as an institution. I think it was a little bit of a mixed, and I think the biggest difference was they talked about the revenue sharing, having the ability to share revenue. Well, I don't think we're sharing a lot of revenue here. So I guess unless somebody shows me how it truly benefits us, I don't really know. There's this talk. I don't know again enough about the NIL bringing it in house. Well, then there's a big wrench thrown because now Title IX, as I was told within the last couple of weeks, said now if you did that, it was going to be subject to Title IX legislation. So I think that changed these big schools. That threw a big wrench in it for them. So I don't know if anybody really knows, but one of the best things I've heard is I think people like to used to come about coaches. Well, coaches have contracts. Well, some do, some don't. A lot of them are at-will contracts, but maybe getting kids where truly the scholarship's truly a contract, or NIL, is truly a contract, and where either they got to pay it back or they got to pay a penalty. Maybe there's even something. You take a player away from somebody, it's not much different in the NFL. So I don't know.
And all you want to do is coach football, right?
Well, and again, you just enjoy I enjoy the off season and development. But I'm in the weight room every day. And it's interesting just to watch these guys get better and better. And we're doing a little bit of stuff, we can do in the off season. And then, we're about ready to start practice here. We're going to start a week from Thursday. At least that's the plan. And I still kind of enjoy that part of it. But man, that's gotten harder and harder. Yeah, not as much here, but I can imagine it at some of these bigger places.
So that kind of leads us into the home stretch here. If all goes according to plan, you're going to start on February the 13th.
That's the plan. That's a Thursday, and the challenge is Monday to Thursday. There's no time in the day we can practice when I can get my guys, unless it's at night. I don't really want to do that, and then I've got to. Again, facility share, lights, I got to have. So, we have the ability on Tuesdays and Thursdays to go early mornings. And we will do certainly some of that. Be nice if it's like it is right now. I don't think we want to go every morning if it's 27 degrees. It just, we can take the cold, but it's, quarterbacks and handling the ball and some stuff like that. But, we'll be on some kind of Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday type plan. I'd like to get about 3 days a week. We want to continue. We're going from 4 days right now in the weight room. We'll go 3 days. We'll keep going 3 days during the spring and then split it up. We have spring break that first full week of March and then come back and, and then maybe get the second half after that. And I think that'll help us too. And again, I think we'll get about half of these guys that are coming back off surgeries, injuries. About half of them, I think. And some of them may be a little bit limited in the spring. There'll be a handful. They won't be able to practice.
Yeah.
Truly practice this spring. So, and then that gives us a good solid month at the end to get back into. Let Andre have them again, full go, and I think that's huge for us. Our thing's kind of forever changing, which makes it kind of, it doesn't get monotonous. You're kind of going from one thing to the next.
Why do you keep doing what you do?
You know what? I really enjoy the people I work with. I guess I always tell parents this because I get asked that. I get asked that too. But I said, I guess I get to make that choice. I love the kids we get to coach, and I've been fortunate, again, I'm a little unusual, and it's been a blessing to be at two places with great kids, higher achievers academically. And can you win, And if I didn't think you could do that, then, everybody works hard. There's places it's just harder. And, we got our unique challenges here, as everybody does. But, I mean, that's the thing that kind of drives me. And yeah, we have our challenges and we have our problems. But, every family has them. They're just different.
Yeah.
And every school is a little different. So we just, again, it goes back to that control what you can control. And I'm still a big believer in, whatever our guys, I got a call this morning from an ex-player, and he's wanting to get in front of our guys to job opportunities and maybe internships. But, what are they doing, down the road? I mean, I've had, I still enjoy that part of it. And, and as long as I keep enjoying that, we'll keep swinging. But I've always kind of enjoyed the practice. People think sometimes the games are all the fun time, because that's the thing everybody sees.
Right.
But I enjoy the practice part, and what you have to do to go out there and practice well.
Well, there's the old saying that adversity doesn't build character; it reveals character. And you and this program went through your share of adversity last year. In fact, starting about this time, I just looked down at the bracelet that I'm wearing, and we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Bryce Stanfield's passing. So having said that, keep Fred and Terry in your prayers, Paladin fans, because the 1-year anniversary is just about a week away. But this team, this program, always seems to find a way to persevere.
Well, our sport is that way. Guys and people have played it. Our sport is a great, I think, builder of young men and young people. That man, it's a tough sport, and it's a 365-day a year grind. And the great ones, as I've been told, the great ones kind of embrace that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does a phenomenal job of preparing people for life after, because life's that way. And I sometimes wonder how people deal with the things that happen in life that are so challenging. They didn't have to, or didn't go through some of the things our guys go through in our off season. So I think we're doing a lot to try to help our guys prepare for life afterwards, and certainly excited to see what they do. And I think at the end of the day, I tell our players all the time, games will come and go. When you're back together 10 years from now with a bunch of your buddies, everybody was a really good player because nobody can remember. Games you usually remember are probably a game you lost. But, man, what you're remembering is all the hard times. I imagine Bernardi's name will come up a few times
Yes.
in the next few years. And you remember those early mornings and a lot of the hard things you did are really things that stick with you. And I'm that way. I can recall that stuff much easier than I can games.
Well, I can tell you this, Coach, as we wrap it up. If the Lord allows me to see December of this year, it'll be the 40th anniversary of me getting into this profession. I got into it as an 18-year-old, and over 40 years I have been blessed, even working in mostly small markets, to interview a ton of high-caliber professional athletes, high-caliber college athletes, and to a man, they say the thing that they remember and they treasure the most long after their playing days is the camaraderie and the relationships that they build inside that locker room.
No question.
That's the thing that meant the most to them.
No question. Well, that's good. This is year 40 for me. So I guess we got something to talk about.
There we go.
So, yeah. But no, we're excited to get going, and our practices are always open.
If you can wake up that early.
Yeah, if you can wake up that early. If you're going during the week, now you better come early. Probably some kind of about a 6:45 a.m. start. Friday and Saturday, we'll have to adjust it according to. We'll figure it out. But you will catch some good days, and you'd love to have the ability to get here on some good afternoons like we've had and go.
This week it's supposed to be in the 70s all week, right?
I saw that. Well, and there's always a method to the madness. It gets dark at 5 o'clock too. So even if you get an afternoon, we got to have lights. Our practice fields don't have lights. So I'll even say this: you can appreciate this. We're going to have a football field painted in the outfield of the baseball field. So you may see us down there a time or two just because there's lights.
Right.
So we'll go where we got to go. And again, we just need to make sure we only get those 15 opportunities, and only 12 of those are in pads. We just got to make the most of all of them, and we will, and it'll be a fun time.
Well, as always, I appreciate the opportunity to catch up with you and the time that you give us. I know it's a busy time for you, and just looking forward to seeing what progress happens. And August is going to be here before you know it. Oh, one thing I didn't ask you. Do you like the way the schedule shakes out this year as opposed to last year? The fact that your money game is not the number one game on the schedule.
Yeah, I've been asked about it because I've never played one of these at the end of the year. I don't know. I never thought I'd like it, but I also think you can catch somebody they're in a little different place at that point in time.
Right.
I really think this, Dan, I thought that first game a year ago, I think that thing set us back for I don't know if I've ever come out of a first game felt like you knew nothing anymore about your team other than I thought our kids hung in there, and then a little bit of a kind of brutal matchup with a style of play and that kind of stuff. So I kind of excited about that at the end of the year. I got a huge opener here to come and play. We had a brutal travel schedule last year, long trips, night games. It just like if anything could happen, we were going to day trip East Tennessee, and then the hurricane hit, and we couldn't, and then it was closed, and then they did an early kickoff. And we were trying to get that changed. Well, then they get the interstate open back up, so we had to book a hotel. Then we couldn't get out of the hotel. I mean, it was just at every turn. That's kind of how it was. And so no, I like the way the schedule just lays out. Things that I think about is just managing the trips and stuff. But I'm kind of I'm interested to see how that goes. Go play that one. Hopefully that's a build up. Mercer did that a year ago, and a number of teams in our league have played the late games. We just haven't played one.
We'll find out, won't we?
We will.
All right, I promise you no more questions. I know you got stuff to do. That will take care of this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Don't forget that you can catch it audio only via the new podcast available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, and Odyssey. Still working on Apple. That's a work in progress, but we'll put the link out to the Podbean host site as well. Back again next week with Stacy Johnson Whitfield. We'll talk some softball. Until then, I'm Dan Scott. God bless you. So long, everybody.